Australia has announced that for the first time since the 1990s, we've had a decrease in life expectancy. Now, it's only by 0.1 years, but as I said, for the first time in about 30 years, life expectancy in this country has decreased. That's according to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, who listed the top 5 causes of death in 2022 as coronary heart disease, dementia, COVID-19, cerebrovascular disease and lung cancer. It should be said we still have the 4th highest life expectancy at birth in the world after only Japan, Korea and Switzerland. But life expectancy did go down for the first time in many years. They attribute that to COVID, saying that half the excess deaths in 2022 were because of COVID-19.
Yeah, indeed. And look, I mean, you know, that 0.1 of a year, let's be frank, I mean, that's time when I could be drinking red wine. I want that 0.1 of a year. They did miss on the top 5 list here, though, that premiers and chief health officers should have been there, because watching their presses every day for 2 bloody years sapped us of the will to live, and that was why we all carked it. But all I can say is that the inquiry that has now been mooted in terms of the causes of the excess death rate, which has shot up in Australia and across the world, cannot come soon enough, right?
The Senate have heard that evidence. They allocated 1 day to it.
Oh, that's what... I'm sorry, I didn't even know it had happened.
Well, and it's a great point, because most of the country doesn't know it happened. Senator Ralph Babet pushed, I think it was on his 4th time, he finally convinced the Senate to have this inquiry. The Senate voted 31 to 30 in favour of inquiring to excess deaths. They allowed only about 4 weeks for submissions, which wasn't anywhere near enough, and devoted 1 day to trying to find out why are more Australians dying than should be.
Well, I understand that report's going to be handed down in August, and I hope that everyone tunes in for it, because I'm fascinated to hear. I mean, when we have an 18% excess death rate, that's where it's at now. It's only been on the climb since it was brought to our attention by the Actuaries Society months ago. Then it was more like 13%, I believe, if memory serves. It's only been climbing. This is something that we desperately need an answer to. We haven't had an excess death rate like this since World War II, and that certainly wasn't a mystery as to how we'd lost lives. So finally, the Senate has very begrudgingly agreed to look into this, and we're going to get that report handed down in August. I know I'll be all ears, because that was my first thought when I read this as well, in terms of life expectancy in Australia, the age dropping. I instantly went to excess mortality and just thought, well, naturally, that's going to bump it down, isn't it? Yeah.
Can I just say, though, so they're saying that COVID is the 3rd biggest killer, or was the 3rd biggest killer in the country. Given that the rate of life expectancy, or the life expectancy, is only reduced by 0.1 of a year, would that not prove what we were all saying from the beginning, that COVID was really only a danger to you if you were an old person, right? Because you would expect to see...
Or had comorbidities.
Yeah, because you would expect to see, if it was killing young people en masse, that you'd have a much starker decrease in the life expectancy, right? But that hasn't happened. So does that not prove that COVID, for most people, was reasonably fine?
But won't the counter-argument be, no, well, it would have been shocking, except for the vaccine rollout, the lockdowns, etc. So that would be the counter-argument, whether we agree with that or not, but that'd be the counter.